Hello, welcome in another important video. Now here in this video, I'll be looking into CSS property pseudo-class. Now before we start with pseudo-class, let's understand where it came from. So W3C is an organization which control and regulates the standardization of the DOM manipulation as well as CSS. So whichever the standards that W3C set, that is mandatory to follow all the advanced libraries which we use in nowadays. CSS libraries such as Bootstrap, Flexbox, they all have to follow the standards has been set by W3C. Well, this is important because all these library, if they started doing their work individually, then there will be a situation where some websites will support some browsers while some websites will simply not support some browsers. So just to avoid those situations, W3C takes care of all the standardization part. Now W3C just keeps on changing their syntax just to make web even more advanced and more accessible. So they have introduced some new features, and let's see what all of those. So pseudo-class is one of them. Pseudo-class is basically a way of selecting elements inside any particular class. So this is an article which shows how we can make use of pseudo-class. So let's see this with an example. So here I have created one simple HTML file in which there are multiple heading tags and they are all printing same message. And all these headings are inside of one division and its class name is my class. Now this is the traditional way of selecting an elements. So let me quickly remove this. Okay, so this is the basic setup that we have. So now if I want to change color of any heading, so I have to do it like this. So it will be a my class, the name of your class, and the selector. So this is the way we are doing it nowadays. Okay, so now as you can see, the color of this heading 1 tag has changed. So now if I want to apply the same CSS property to all of the remaining heading tags, so I need to copy this part again, and I have to change this heading 2 tag. So now this property is applicable to heading 2 as well. Well, this syntax is the kind of repetitive work, and in order to avoid this, W3 standards have introduced the new way of selecting elements, and that is nothing but pseudo-class. So let's see what actually it means. So if I go back inside the coding, and if I want to select any particular element from inside of my class, I'll just have to provide this syntax. Now this is will select an elements inside of my class. So if I provide h1, and this name of the parameters will be the selector names in comma separated values. h3. If I save this, well, we are missing out something here. So let's go back in the documentation. So this is the way we can select any particular element. So if I have to provide some space here. Okay, so now now it is working. So with this way we can select any particular elements. If you compare our previous syntax with the current syntax, you will see that there are line of codes apparently reduced. So instead of using the traditional way of selecting any particular element, we can make use of pseudo-class, which reduces our code as well as reduces the complexity to handle it. Now they have given two different selectors using is and using where. There is no functionality difference, but the only difference there is specificity. Now specificity is the property which decides whether that property will get override or not. So you might have observed that we write sometimes, if you don't want to override that particular element, just simply write important. Now with this way, if I change this property anywhere in the CSS, it will not going to change because we have said this that this is important. In the same way, specificity works. If the specificity is 0, that means the CSS property of this particular element can get override. If the specificity is high, that means it is way more difficult to override the properties. Well, that's the major difference between is and where. There's nothing more there. Now if we look at the browser support, currently it is supporting Firefox 78, Safari 14 plus, and the Chromium based browsers. So currently it is not available in all old browsers, but certainly you can make use of this property inside the modern browsers. Well, that's all about the pseudo classes in a CSS.